You ever feel like you did speak up, you did say it bothered you, and they still do it anyway, right? It's like, how many times do I need to say this to you until you actually care, right? But let me hit you with something that might sting just a little bit. What if the problem isn't that they ignored what you said to them, right? They didn't ignore the boundary that you tried to set. But what if the actual problem is you never set a boundary in the first place? Yeah, you voiced the frustration. You may have even hinted at the fact that you didn't like something, right? Maybe you even got upset or mad. But a boundary, that requires more than just frustration. No, it requires clarity, structure, and follow through. And without those components, what you thought was a boundary is just your feelings. It's just a feeling you had that's out there floating around, hoping someone takes it seriously. So let's break this down. Here's how it happens in most relationships. You don't like something, right? Maybe the way they joke about you in public. Maybe the way they still text their ex, maybe, right? Or how they don't include you in different decisions. You feel a way about it, understandably, right? But instead of saying, hey, this doesn't work for me because of X, so I need you to, or I'm asking you to stop doing Y, and if it continues, I'm going to do Z. Instead of doing that, you say something like, wow, or okay, or you give them attitude, or you vent to your friends, or you just shut down completely. Or maybe you even say, I don't like this or I don't like that, but you never articulate why or what actually needs to change for you. And when they do it again, you take it as a personal attack, right? You feel ignored, unseen, maybe unloved. But from their perspective, they can't see a boundary they crossed. All they see is a moment that passed. Why? Because you didn't tell them what the issue actually meant to you. You didn't tell them what you needed, and you didn't explain what would happen if it continued. And that right there is where most relationships silently start to fall apart. Because one person now thinks they should just get it, right? They should already know. I shouldn't have to tell them this. And the other one's thinking, I thought everything was fine. Now you're not just upset, you're resentful. You're emotionally withdrawing from them. And you're mentally building a case against them now to justify your emotional withdrawal and to reassure yourself in your decision to move away from them or maybe walk away from the relationship altogether. So you can feel like, hey, I'm justified in doing this. When really there is a lot left on the table to be communicated, so you didn't have to get to this step in the first place. Let's clear this up. A boundary is not just saying something bothered you. It requires 4 key components. First, clarity, meaning you articulating to the other person what specifically crossed the line for you, right? Specifics here, no guesswork. Second, impact, letting them know what about that thing that happened, right? Why it or how it affects your physical, mental, or emotional well-being, right? Third, request, meaning what you want to change, what you need to change. And notice I said request because you can't force someone to respect your boundary, but you can ask them to. And you'll get better results trying to ask if someone can honor it and respect it versus trying to force them to do something, right? That makes them more so want to push back before they want to work with you oftentimes. And then comes step 4. And this is especially important if they decide they do not want to respect or honor your boundary, which is consequence, which is letting them know if this continues, here's what I'm going to do about it. Because enforcing a boundary is all about what you do, but setting one is about how well you articulate to the other person why something's not good for you, and you ask that they honor and respect that. But if all else fails, you let them know what will happen on your end, what you're going to do if they continue or if the thing continues. And that piece right there alone, if they value you enough, is what will get them to really reconsider the actions they're doing if they have to consider losing you or having worse of a relationship with you or not having much of a connection or not getting to talk to you or whatever your consequence is. That's the piece that gets them to really rethink it if you have to get to that stage of enforcing or letting them know what you'll need to do if they continue to do whatever they're doing currently. So if you're missing any of those, You haven't set a boundary, you just set a hope. And hope without action just turns into frustration. Frustration becomes silence, and silence becomes resentment, and resentment eventually blows up and ruins the relationship. Here's the uncomfortable truth, right? People don't respond best to hints, they respond to clarity. If you don't draw a line, you can't blame them for crossing it, right? And if there's no consequence, then it's just a suggestion, not a standard or a boundary. So if you're constantly finding yourself upset, hurt, or disappointed, check your boundaries first. Were they really set or just felt? Right? Because look, yes, you can actually set boundaries, or you can, do different things, and the other person really is just doing stuff and being hurtful and all those things. That is a possibility. Absolutely. That does happen. And if that's the case, then you probably need to reevaluate being in that relationship in the first place, right? But oftentimes people overlook their ability or the power they have to help change their results by checking how they're showing up first. Because oftentimes we overlook, hey, I'm feeling a way about this, and maybe I've given enough hints or cues or things to where I would hope the partner that's right for me would get it, and don't need to say a whole lot, and they would already piece some things together. Absolutely. But if you don't do your part to make sure at the very least that there's no guesswork on your end, so that on their end, there's no excuse for them not to get it after you know for sure you made it clear, then that part's on you. Right? Because although, yes, we want others to kind of be on the same wavelength as us, it's still our responsibility to make sure we articulate clearly if something's not being heard by someone we deem is worthy to be with, right? Is right for us. Because if you're saying to me, hey, I shouldn't have to articulate these things this clearly and give the repercussions and say how it's impacting me and all that stuff, they should just get it. Then what you're also telling me in that same breath is that person most likely doesn't share the same core principles and morals as you. They don't have the same values. And that's an issue on an artery foundational level to begin with, right? So that is true. If that is true for you and you're like, I shouldn't have to even say all the rest of this, then you really don't need to be with that person, because you need to articulate something that you believe they should be aligned with on a core values level, right? But even when you get down to those levels, it's still a dicey space, because just because someone can share the same values as you doesn't mean they're going to see every scenario from the same perspective, because they have their own journey they've lived as well that's pieced together their own way of thinking also. So it helps dot your I's and cross your T's so you can move with more certainty and trust your judgment better when you can say, yes, I've done my part and I've articulated effectively, and now they still didn't make the adjustments. Now I can feel more reassured when I decide to walk away if I need to do that, without saying, did I do enough? Because you don't want to get caught in that little bit of a trap. Because always remember, when love lacks structure, it creates confusion. But when love has structure, it creates safety. The right person will never run from your clarity. They'll respect it because it makes them feel safe too. It makes them feel reassured that they're doing what's right by their partner, so that they know they're not being part of an issue at all, and that they're helping to create the healthy relationship they want to enjoy themselves. But it also lets them know you share certain beliefs on your end, to where they would expect that you wouldn't do the same things in return. So they feel safe under the same belief system that you have for yourself. So if this hit home for you and you want to learn how to set real boundaries that protects your peace and actually gets respected, then email or DM me the word coaching and we will get to work, as long as you're truly ready to put that work in actual one-on-one sessions. If you don't have the time, space, or maybe even the finances to do one-on-one coaching, I get it. Then at the very least, email or DM me the word challenge to take my relationship rulebook challenge if you have not taken it yet, which is designed across 3 short days, 1 hour a day, to help you craft your own personalized structured relationship rulebook through getting airtight on your core values, learning the type of standards you need to have, learning the type of boundaries you need to have and how to set them, as well as your deal breakers, your non-negotiables, where you walk away, no questions asked if those things are crossed, the do's and don'ts in a relationship, as well as the different things you should be focused on at different stages of a relationship, so that by the end of those 3 days, you'll be airtight and you'll be prepared and have the ability to go set those boundaries out there and live by your standards that you need to feel reassured in your vetting process of relationships and dating as you go through your love life with confidence, not confusion and second guessing things, right? You can do it at your own pace, on your own time, at a finance level you can afford. But if nothing else, do something to get in the race and step up and take the challenge. Let's get it.